This is the caviar that brown bears love to eat, with each bite containing the calories of one egg. Caviar is actually the roe inside salmon, and its taste and nutrition are self-evident. The salmon we often hear about refers to fish of the salmon family. We often see images of brown bears gorging themselves, which means they are eating this type of salmon. If they eat too much sashimi, these foods might contain tapeworm eggs or larvae, and then the brown bears could become infected with these parasites. Every July, when the salmon migration is in full swing, large creatures like brown bears rely on consuming a large amount of salmon to store enough fat for themselves. The life of salmon is both tragic and inspiring, and their migration behavior illustrates the profound significance of survival, reproduction, and ecological cycles. Salmon swim from the Pacific Ocean to freshwater, a journey that spans 3,000 kilometers, marking a great migration back to their birthplace. Every spring, the salmon migration is a spectacular event as they rely on their extraordinary sense of smell to distinguish their own path in the vast ocean. The freshwater river where they were born, thus finding their way home. During this process, salmon go through many hardships to return to their birthplace to spawn, including crossing the ocean and encountering predators like sea lions or orcas along the way. In addition, salmon must leap over waterfalls, swimming upstream all the way. After 2 months of long-distance travel, the salmon finally reach the edge of the inland coast. By this time, it is already late July, and tens of thousands of salmon gathered at the estuary. The salmon are eager to swim to the freshwater area because their eggs can only survive in freshwater. On the riverbank, the water level has now dropped very low, and the first batch of salmon to arrive here are still struggling to swim forward in the shallow water. It is this fresh water that brings them home that will take the salmon's life. Because the salmon's kidneys and other organs suddenly have to adapt to the environment lacking salt water, the salmon will stop eating and even stop drinking water. This means they must rely solely on stored body energy to quickly reach their birthplace for spawning. At the edge of the North Pacific coast, there are large storms sweeping through at this time of year, with rainfall in the forest reaching 3 meters high and on the higher coastal areas. All the rainwater flows into the sea, causing the water level to rise rapidly, which becomes a major obstacle for the salmon swimming upstream. The salmon's entire body is muscular, and when they reach areas with significant water flow differences, they leap forcefully, their bodies forming a perfect streamlined shape. At this moment, their jumping height is like a human leaping from a 4-story building. However, the water flow drop is not the only challenge the salmon must overcome. The brown bears, waiting here for a long time, can catch the first batch of returning salmon in advance. However, it is not an easy task for the brown bears to catch the lively salmon here. In order to reach the spawning grounds, salmon will bravely forge ahead, and no obstacles can stop them. They try to find gravel areas suitable for spawning. As the rainfall decreases, the water level along the riverbanks begins to drop rapidly. The first batch of salmon reaching the riverbank will be trapped in shallow water, and what's worse, here, brown bears are already waiting for them. These emaciated brown bears are already starving. Brown bears will replenish their energy by catching a large number of salmon in the shallow waters, but the number of the first returning salmon is not large. At this time, it is not the right moment to prey on salmon, and the salmon move very quickly. Additionally, some salmon escape to deeper waters, so only a few salmon are caught by the brown bears. The salmon hiding in the deep water can only wait for the rain to continue their journey. At this time, the salmon's body begins to change. When their sex hormones stimulate the production of eggs and sperm, the salmon's skin changes color, and they slowly start to develop a hump and a hooked nose. However, no matter what, the salmon will not stay here for too long. They will complete their reproductive mission as quickly as possible. Older brown bears know that catching salmon in deep water is quite challenging. Although they may drive them to the riverbed, it is still difficult for brown bears to operate in deep water. While the salmon avoid harm from the bears, as the late summer sun causes water levels to drop, the dissolved oxygen at the bottom also decreases. And some salmon have already lost their lives here before reaching the spawning grounds. They urgently need a rainfall. Soon an autumn rain arrives, signaling the salmon to set off. Although the rainfall brings new challenges, but keep beating their tails, using the power of the current to move forward, swimming upstream against the waterfall. The salmon are not far from their spawning grounds, which is also where they were born 4 years ago. They swam from the Pacific Ocean to the coast, and all the obstacles they faced have caused significant losses for the salmon. Their remarkable feat is a testament to the salmon's fearless and brave journey in pursuit of a life-meaningful quest. Only 0.4% of the salmon reach the spawning grounds, and even those face the threat of predators at their destination. Brown bears preparing for winter will feast on salmon along this coast. Nevertheless, within a radius of 1 kilometer, there are thousands of salmon. A large number of salmon will still avoid predators' harm. Female salmon will dig a shallow pit as a nest, constantly swaying their tails over the sand, and then lay their eggs in the pit. Meanwhile, male salmon, the male will release its sperm into the water. At this moment, everything the salmon has gone through is worth it. They have passed on numerous offspring until the end of their lives. After a long migratory journey, once these salmon have completed their reproductive mission, their bodies gradually deteriorate. The exhausted salmon will gradually die at their birthplace in the coming weeks. After traveling thousands of kilometers and completing their reproductive mission, they finally return to their roots. This is the tragic life of the salmon. Their decaying bodies nourish the river for their offspring. Provided ample food, everything they do is for their offspring. This is a cycle of life leveraging itself. The salmon carcasses not only provide nutrients for the river, but they are also at the center of a large biological network. In this forest, over 200 species, whether trees, insects, birds and mammals, both rely on the bodies of salmon for food. Therefore, the salmon migration illustrates the profound meaning of survival, reproduction, and ecological cycles.